It's time once again for Dirty Story Night. Second place in the Joss Whedon month is Laura's Sexual Awakening. Laura is another new contender. Speaking of awakenings, there are a couple of short story series on our parent network, IABD Presents, that may spark an awakening in you. You can check out God is My BFF, which isn't particularly religious, but does get into some supernatural stuff. You can also check out Stark Story Snacks, which cover a variety of topics, and are often only about a page or so long. So a good way to get some short original fiction without a big time commitment. It's pretty cool. Highly recommend it. So head on over to IABDpresents.com, follow us on social media at IABD Presents, and rate and review us on iTunes. Also, if you're in the Columbus area, go to madlab.net, see what shows are coming up. We've got several contestants in our Dirty Story Night contest that are regulars at Mad Lab Theater. So you may want to see them perform outside of just this podcast. And I would recommend any of the shows they've got coming up. So enjoy.
Okay. Hi. So first I have a spoiler alert that I'm about to spoil every plot thing that happens in Buffy. So if that matters to you, you should stop listening. Okay. All right. So this is my sexual education confessional that I have titled Things You Never Wanted to Know About Me, Buffy the Vampire Slayer Edition. As a child, I'm pretty sure that my parents gave me the sex talk, although I can't really remember it. As the youngest of four, they might have taught one of my older siblings about sex twice, and then knowing that they'd given the talk 4 times, forgot to actually give it to me. Sex ed at my Catholic school focused more on convincing me that if I ever had premarital sex that I was a terrible person, and less on explaining to me what sex actually was. So who could a curious girl in the late 90s turn to learn about humanity's most primal desires? Well, for me, that person was Mr. Joss Whedon. And I would like to share with you some of the many lessons that I learned from him. So 2 very important things happened to influence my sexual awakening. And one was that one of my older siblings went off to college that I only had 2 people to compete for the remote control with, which allowed me to discover Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I'm discovering Buffy when it was the Dark Ages. So if I was going to miss an episode, I recorded it on something called a VHS. Exactly. And in one of these circumstances, I'd recorded a tape, and I was pretty sure that Angel and Buffy were gonna fuck on it. And I really wanted to watch it alone. So I went down to the basement where there's this really old TV that no one ever used, and we never went down there, and it wasn't a finished basement, so it made absolutely no sense that I would be down there. So I go down there, and I'm watching this episode with the anticipation of a girl who's never been kissed, and Angel and Buffy are dripping wet from the rain, and he's all, maybe we shouldn't. And she's like, shut up and kiss me. And my mom walks downstairs and says, nobody is watching TV in the living room, you know. And I was like, oh yeah, thanks. And that's how Buffy taught me that sometimes sex has to be sneaky. Now, my parents in my Catholic school spent a lot of time trying to teach me that losing your virginity before marriage is wrong. But nobody taught me this lesson more clearly than Joss Whedon. Abstinence-only educators should give up the whole save yourself for Jesus thing and just get kids super into Buffy, where you learn that if you have sex in high school, you're going to be stalked, tortured, and your pets and loved ones are going to be murdered. I didn't lose my virginity for a really long time. So when Buffy goes to college, she sleeps with a guy named Parker. It doesn't end well for her, right? So you might think that the subsequent episodes of Buffy's broken heart and full of angst and confusion and rejection might have taught me that one-night stands are bad and you should only have sex when you're in a committed relationship, but no, you're wrong. Parker taught me that whining about guys who just aren't that into you is boring and obnoxious. And if you remove feelings from sex, you probably won't cry for half of season 4. Which probably wasn't the takeaway that my parents were hoping for. So I came to Buffy with a completely clean slate, preteen girl, no dating experience, and I see things like the episode where Spike gets the chip in his head, but he doesn't know what it does yet, and he goes to Buffy's dorm room and he finds Willow there alone, and he covers her mouth when she tries to scream, and he throws her roughly onto the bed, and my 12-year-old brain is like, that's not sexy, right? Because that's not consensual, and so why is that so, oh, God! And that's how Joss Whedon ruined me. Every boyfriend I've ever had is really amused when they discover that if you kiss my neck, goosebumps run down the entire side of my body. And sure, I could pretend like, oh, I'm really ticklish, but no, I think the truth is that I'm a little part of my brain is pretty sure that you're about to bite me and rip my throat out and murder me. But thanks to Joss Whedon, I'm kind of okay with that. Of course, Buffy does have one healthy relationship. In college, she dates a tall, human-shaped puppy named Riley Finn. And the thing I learned from Buffy having sex with Riley was, absolutely nothing, because he's the most boring male character in the series. So, and I did learn a few positive messages from Buffy, like sexuality is a spectrum, and women can be attracted to other women without identifying as gay, and that's all okay. So you might be thinking that this open-minded lesson came from Willow's thoughtful discovery of her homosexuality, but you'd be wrong. It came from seeing Faith in leather pants for the first time. So I'm watching Buffy, and it's turning me on, but I have no concept that that is what's happening. And at this point in time, if someone had asked me to explain what sex was, it would be like today if someone asked me to explain what the 2008 financial crisis was. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. So I'm learning, and I'm not learning about sex from my friends because I never wanted to seem like I didn't know about things, and I'm an actor, so I was just faking all of this knowledge that I had no clue. If Urban Dictionary had been invented back then, I could have saved myself a lot of trouble. So you might be worried that our brave heroine, which is me, not Buffy, is about to go off to high school without actually having an accurate understanding of what sex is. But don't you worry, because William the Bloody is about to fix all of that. Now, I wouldn't say that Spike's English accent made me obsessed with accents, but it would explain that year of my life where I only dated men with British accents. Which was actually a really sad year for me because, as I learned, it takes you twice as long to figure out if a guy is stupid if he has an English accent. I was so naive that when it came to sex, I had no clue what was happening the first time I saw most of these episodes. There's an episode where Spike fucks Buffy from behind on the loft of the Bronze, and it doesn't really show what's going on below the waist because it's the WB, right? And I remember being in choir class the next day, and my friend asked me, do you think he was in or out? And I had no clue what the fuck she was talking about. As an adult, I know that she was asking me, do you think his dick was in her pussy? And as an adult, I know that with absolute certainty, the answer is yes. They were banging in a bar in full view of all of their friends and about 30 strangers. But at the time, all I could think was in what? So I said, in? And I luckily think that was the right answer. So we're coming to the part of the story where if you're a Buffy fan, you've been waiting for it. The climax of my sexual education experience with Buffy, which happens to be my favorite Joss Whedon climax. And Spike and Buffy are gonna fuck so good, the building is going to collapse. And I thought a lot about what I wanted to say about this, and all I came up with was, thank you.